We're seeing a lot more and more Zaccharie, Risacher, like number one, top two kind of smoke. And I wanted to go and watch some of his recent games. I actually did a video on Risacher somewhat recently, kind of breaking down why I'm a bit lower on him. But and I'm going to link that video. You should go watch that either before this video. But I went and watched that video back and compared my thoughts. And I think honestly, a lot of them are the same. These are two games, like I think like a 28 point, like a 21 or 23 point game in the playoffs. So really impressive box score wise. And I'm going to break down pretty much everything that happened in those games. And first thing to know, as always, is that Risacher is at his best in the open floor. Like, oh my God, that is absurd. I think in the half court, his athleticism really suffers, but smooth behind the back, that's his best move. That behind the back, burst into traffic, elevate and dunk that shit. Like, he is a deadly transition player. He can push the break and make a simple little lay down pass as well, and he can push in transition, and this is the kind of stuff that I want to see more from Risacher, is these pull-up threes, the off-dribble stuff, aiding his shot versatility. And the shooting in these couple games was really impressive. I think Risacher is going to be a pretty damn good shooter. Not like elite or anything, but that step back was clean. He's not really a high-volume off-dribble shooter, but doesn't really create a ton of space, but it's because he has such a high quick release, he doesn't really need all of that much space, which is obviously a great trait to have. This is a great little snatch sidestep attempt, and I think the comfortability on these looks, quick jab to the right to get the defender kind of leaning, cross back, step back, the fact that it looks so smooth, the fact that he's not changing his mechanics at all off the bounce or off contests, I think is a really good sign. And though I don't think he's going to be an elite shooter, which is part of why I'm not like top 3 high on him, I do think he's going to be a very good shooter, no doubt. He's been a good shooter for so long in Euroball, even if the volume and versatility aren't, and the free throw stuff isn't elite. But this was kind of one that caught me off guard, because Risacher's, one of my main issues with him as a shooter is that he's kind of stiff normally, but this is kind of a good example of him like turning his body, rotating, adjusting in midair to hit a little fadeaway baseline jumper. Once again, something I want to see a lot more of out of Risacher, and he's a really great off-ball mover, cutter type, as we've talked about before, and he showcased that in these games. Risacher floating to the weak corner to give himself or give his teammate an outlet to pass for a three while he fades into the corner. His release is just so quick and high that I think the catch and shoot stuff is going to end up being really good. He likes to catch on the hop right here, which helps him realign his feet to the basket really smoothly. Set point way like almost above his head, or at his forehead, I guess. Quick flick, and it's a really good looking shot. And I think Risacher is going to have success. And I love his comfortability and I don't want to say, I guess comfort totally is a better word, working in pro style actions, running the Spain pick and roll here as the bottom player, kind of fading backwards into a jumper. He's used to all of these different NBA style, and even though he doesn't necessarily do them all very consistently, offensive rebound here, Risacher is going to reset. I don't know why it stuttered. Hit a nice pull up there, but the fact that he's comfortable, flashing all of these is really good to see. I definitely think it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to do it all, but the flashes are important. And this basic closeout attacking is certainly within Risacher's wheelhouse. And I may have, not given this enough credit if he can be a legit shooter in my last video and before, where he can take a couple dribbles and slam it home. Now, I do want to note, right, that this is a terrible closeout. No one's really pressuring his hands at all. He can take off early and leap against the worst athlete. When he can win with his athleticism, it looks really good, I will say. And this is one of the best plays, I think, one of my favorite plays of this 2-game sample, where, as I talked about before, Risacher's creation and his handle are my biggest general offensive issues in terms of ceiling. But when he can do it off the ball, his decisiveness is really good. Like, sidestep, quick cross back, doesn't get a ton of space, but he gets just enough to beat this defender. And I love the attempt of the lefty floater as he draws the foul. His touch is pretty solid. It's nothing incredible, I think. But Risacher can really get up when he has a runway. Again, like we said, the defense, nothing really incredible, particularly not a great closeout. not really a great attempt at contesting, right? And I think that's kind of important to know, that when everything looks good and when the defense isn't really pressuring, his athleticism looks great. But I think when there's contact, when the defense is pressuring, when things aren't as smooth, Risacher's athleticism definitely falters. Another good offensive rebound. He's pretty energetic crashing the glass. He's not like a terrible rebounder or anything. But I do think there are times when his lack of kind of ingenuity and handle off the bounce get him into trouble. In a play like this, like where this defender actually closes out and sticks with him, Risacher can't generate an advantage. He dribbles himself into the corner and he, runs this defender over. If he wanted to make this pass, he could have made it here, maybe a little bit earlier. Just a not great possession overall, showing the lack of driving control and driving feel and scoring feel at times. And again, Risacher's handle, when it's like actually pressured like it will be in the NBA, right? Late quarter, late clock situation, he's just going to pounce on the handle, cleanly rip it. And this kind of this to me happens too much against real defense. Like when defenders are really digging and pressuring against him rather than just kind of letting him go by, he struggles to control the ball. He struggles to create advantages just because he's not that strong or explosive, or I think he's not flexible, which is a big issue in his torso in terms of getting low, generating leverage. You'll see a lot of other great slasher wings do that, but I don't necessarily think Risacher is super adept at doing that. The strength, again, you can see kind of pops up as he's not able to move this guy back. I'm not overly worried about strength just because, the NBA is generally pretty good at developing that. But I do think he is like quite weak for his age group and his size. Like it's not like, I think his strength is a little bit below average for that role. And again, Risacher kind of driving himself into trouble. Doesn't really have the handle to like stop back, keep his dribble, and maybe find this man low. So we're seeing plenty of the ball handling issues. But when he's off the ball, man, Risacher can move and he can cut. I absolutely love this play. I don't know if this was like the set play. It might have been because of how this big changes his screening angle. But I love the pin down's not going to happen. He shoots the gap. Let's turn it back, go for a lob. And again, when he's in space, when there's no pressure, he can get up, which is, I think, concerning, but isn't, a bad thing to have, right? That get up athleticism. Risacher is a great extra passer. He's not really like a super dynamic or advanced passer as we kind of saw in that play before, but he'll make solid decisions as like an off wing, simple extra passes to the corner, transition passing as we saw earlier in this game, more off ball movement here with his cut. And I really like this play through Risacher, finishing through contact here, kind of setting his 2 feet, exploding up through contact, keeping his balance and finishing. That's the stuff I really want to see from him, because to me on offense he does project as a pure play finisher, and I really just don't have much interest in taking a pure play finisher in the top 2 in basically any draft. But his defense is really quite good, and I wanted to go over some of that from these 2 games as well, and look at his defense, because obviously the offensive box scores were great in these games, but his defense was really impactful too, as Risacher just glues himself to screens. I think before I said he doesn't really have an elite trait, which I don't love, and while I do mostly stand by that, I think his like stickiness on the ball and agility moving side to side, cutting off defenders is close to elite, at least, especially for a guy of his size, where guarding down, where he's guarding a guard here, right? He's so good moving his feet, cutting off angles because of his lightness of foot, his agility. He'll shade basically full court and not let up at all. Again, this is like a late quarter situation, and Risacher just sticks to him like glue. This late closeout's a little risky, but he does, get his foot out of the way. Good for him to do that, right? But we see the cutoff. Decent little snatch here, but Risacher is able to recover. Not like a super great recovery, but he is able to recover a little bit. He is a really great on-ball defender. I do think on-ball defense doesn't really translate as well as off-ball defense. So much of it is scheme reliant that I do think there's that component, and so much of it is also strength reliant too, which Risacher lacks. But again, gliding around screens super easily. Again, ends up being an unrelated to him outcome, but we see that on-ball D. Great tag recover. His closeouts are phenomenal, which is something I value a lot While I don't think his off-ball defense is that great, as I talked about before, he is a really good like ground coverage closeout defender, which is good. Tags the roller here to get rid of a pass. Nice feel there. Shows the top foot, which is usually bad, right? Usually not good, because that's what that's what drivers love to attack. But he flips his hips like a corner, gets his hand up. Risacher's closeouts save his team points, right? Because that's how NBA offense generates points and advantages, by putting the defense in rotation. Good job by Risacher here, sliding down to take away this pass. Maybe he fouled there. I'm not exactly sure, but regardless, it was a good way. But I think another big issue for me for Reese is his rim protection, as he just isn't really explosive, strong, or long enough to make a huge impact, even when he's positioned pretty well. Like, his positioning and awareness are pretty good. He's early in the pocket here and is able to get his hands up, but he just, fouls here, isn't really strong enough to hold him back on his own. And I do think that kind of is a big value detractor when it comes to his really high-end stuff. Again, Risacher, kind of like a loose ball scramble play. He's right there, but just doesn't have the size, the explosiveness to really stop this player from finishing that play. Another really great like awareness type play, where we see Risacher mirror on the ball, stop, and this double comes, immediately reacts to the pass, gets both hands up to contest, but just isn't really explosive or talented as a rim protector. Rim protection is a real skill beyond just being explosive, and I think the great rim protectors, you see Risacher as kind of just two hands up, will like go for that ball or make a play on it, try to use their timing and their tracking to block a shot. But I think even like these were two of Risacher's best games, right? All these clips were just from those two games, and they were great, but I still don't think they're number one or top 3 pick worthy. I have too many issues with, as I said, the dribbling stuff, the creation, the strength, and some of the off-ball defense. But if he is shooting like this, I think he's going to be a really good player. And even though I have Risacher lower on my board, like I have him around 10-ish, 10 to 14 range for me, I would totally understand taking him in the top 4 to 5 in this draft. I don't love it, but especially like for a team for the Pistons, I think the Spurs makes a lot of sense. It's definitely something that you can do. So would love to know what you think about this video and who you want to see next.